agriculturalism is the most ancient human practice other than hunting. We figured this out. We just need to do it right.
Welcome to Team Futurism. Today, Devin, Carson, and I are going to be talking about lab-grown meat and the update that happened there. Also, a couple of other random topics I might want to jump into, but let's go ahead and start with the lab-grown meat update. So it is approved by the FDA, and apparently there is going to be lab-grown chickens sold in San Francisco and Washington, D.C. in the semi-near future. So, Devin, give me your thoughts.
Dude, I had to look at this article for about 30 seconds before I had a fully composed opinion.
Excellent. Let's hear it.
Which I was surprised at, because I kind of launched into it with the attitude of like, well, I don't know too much about this, and like I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive. But honestly, like the kind of my gestalt reaction was kind of informed what I think about this. I have a background in agriculture, so I was a farmer for a lot of my 20s. I really kind of did a deep dive into restorative agriculture, biodynamic agriculture, soil science, soil health, all of that stuff. That's like a big passion in my life. And I think the headline for this meat situation, and the thing that they keep hammering on, is they're like, well, it's unsustainable the way that we're producing meat in the United States. And it's fucked up and disgusting is kind of their argument. And it's too expensive environmentally, and it's too expensive cost-wise. Well, maybe not cost-wise, because their meat is actually a lot more expensive. Let me tell you what upsets me about this.
So are you for this, or are you against this, or?
I'm fully against it.
Fully against it. Okay, yeah. Let's hear the.
I'm fully against it, because I think first of all, it's a real facile argument that meat is unsustainable. I think we've got a lot of practices in this country and all over the world that are egregious and are like tantamount to like humans' rights issues, but with animals.
Yeah.
Animals' rights issues. Yep. We have to fix that. We have to get chickens out of long houses where they never see the light of day. We got to stop pumping them full of weird shit, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that is a system that is, we are part of the animal system, right? Like we and animals coexist and cohabitate this planet together and have lived in close proximity to each other and provided each other with services and meat for arguably millennia. And it's frustrating to me to see somebody take the tack of, well, these unsustainable practices are ridiculous, and so we have to completely re-engineer the way that we relate to animals in terms of a food source. I'm like, no, we don't. We just have to fix the broken parts of the system that we're in, because we have biodynamic farms. We have places that are producing grass-fed, naturally raised meats that are not only the best meat you can possibly buy, but they're synergistic with the ecology of the system that they're in. And that can happen anywhere. You've got places like Polyface Farms up in the Northeast that are doing really cool, kind of modern, modified, but a very traditional understanding of agriculture, where it's biodynamic in the sense that, hey, we have the cows come through, graze the pasture, the cows poop, bring the chickens to the pasture, the chickens pull out all the bugs and spread the poop around everywhere. Then we bring the goats when the weeds get too high, and then we plant vegetables on that land in succession, and we're rotating crops through these areas to enrich the soil, create really solid meat products and vegetable products that are nutrient dense and tasty. And I think it's absurd to do this idea of like a startup company where you're spending, I'm guessing, hundreds of millions of dollars to manufacture this thing in a laboratory, which, I mean, besides my kind of my suspicions that meat protein is not going to integrate correctly with the human biome, aside from that, because who knows, it's just like fix the parts of the system that are broken and then invent something different that's exotic. It's like, don't iterate past something that is perfectly functional just needs improvement. That's kind of my, I don't know, that's my baseline
This is
feeling.
good. This is good. I want to maybe argue with some of those points, but before I do, I mean, I really do want to headline the fact that there are very serious shortcomings to this lab-grown meat project. And a couple of months ago, I talked with Elliot Roth, who is the founder of a startup that does food, or algae as food. And he wants like algae to be the new replacement for, you know, sustainable food. And like that is such an amazing pitch, and I love everything about that. And as part of that conversation, he talked about like some of the shortcomings of lab grown meat and why, if you're comparing it to something like algae, it's a clear loser. The lab grown meat is a clear loser. I've spent a little bit of time looking this up, and like the shortcomings of lab grown meat, they're kind of real, and they're not great. Here are a couple of them. It's very, I mean, one, it's very expensive to the point where it, even when this is rolled out to its largest extent, the chicken, quote unquote, is going to cost like $20 a pound. They're envisioning. It's wildly more expensive now, but like $20 a pound is some expensive ass chicken. So there's that. There's also the fact that like it is very, very, very hard to scale this, and we don't actually know if when you do scale this, how much you can before the cells start to die or become like unusable and gross. And also, it just takes a ton of energy. It takes a bucket load of energy to create stuff. Whereas like chickens eat grass and everything, you know, like a chicken is actually not that energy consumptive to just grow chicken. But okay, those are some real issues. We're dealing with a world right now where yes, we have a broken system, but maybe there are ways to fix it. But right now, just take a guess how many pounds of chicken per year the US produces.
I'm going to say it's in the billions.
50 billion pounds of chicken.
Oh, no. Oh, that's so gnarly.
I'm gonna take that figure and just like hold that up on the wall for a minute and just say, yeah, like I'm kind of in favor of organic chickens and the real thing and on and on. I think that within this 50 billion pound monster, there's some room to iterate around the edges. I think that that's fine. I think that like I don't have any romantic attachment to a chicken farm. Yeah, we've been doing it for thousands of years. We've been doing all kinds of things for thousands of years that we've absolutely moved past. That, to me, that argument sounds a little bit like, oh, we used to have this wonderful relationship with horses and you drive them everywhere. There's no way in hell I'm getting a gas-powered automobile. To me, that's the same argument. So like the romantic version doesn't really win me over. Although the argument that like maybe the lab grown meat isn't going to integrate with our cells in a similar way, that's going to pull me in. That's going to pull me into your side of this. But yeah, like what do you foresee happening? Like I don't actually foresee lab grown meat making a dent in anyone's day-to-day life for at least a decade still, just based on what I've been reading about this. But what do you think? Do you think this is going to make a meaningful impact, or is this something that's just going to be like a rich person's, you know, fancy restaurant gimmick?
I just don't think it's going to cross the weird gulf, like the uncanny valley gulf of like food products. Like food is so integral to our storytelling as humans, and the way that we interface with the world that we live in. As food is the building block, is the cornerstone of our experience. And I think that there's like gimmicky shit like Huel and like Soylent and like things that are for like nerds that are like, I don't know, like into like the idea of food science, but like the
all fake meat to me is gross. Even though every now and then I'll eat like a veggie burger or whatever. My wife is vegetarian, so we have a lot of and she is adamantly against vegetarian like knockoff foods like vegetarian hot dogs and shit like that. I am too. I think it's dumb. I think vegetables are amazing, and most soy-based products that are mirroring a hamburger, they are terrible for you. They're so bad for you. I'm not a fan of that like at all. If maybe some vegetarians are able to eat a summer hot dog at a barbecue because it was grown in a lab and maybe it costs $30, but it makes them feel ethical. I don't know. Maybe that's a use for this sort of a product. But yeah, I'm not a fan of like fake meat in general.
Yeah, you know what? You touched on something earlier too that I think was a huge kind of sticking point in my mind, where you were like, "Well, the energy consumption of producing this like industrial style meat is like kind of insane. Like the factory, all of the equipment, all of the technology. Who knows how much energy is going into producing the actual meat itself? What they're building it out of? You know, like all of this supply chain dynamic that is so streamlined on a farm. Like
Right.
even if it's a Tyson Foods like fucked up like chickens in black cages that they'll never see the light of day, it's still pretty streamlined. The thing that I think the ethical problem that it's solving, which it didn't address, which I get it because not a lot of people are on this side, is that like having a conscious being in a torture state for its entire existence is morally reprehensible. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you think an animal is tantamount to an insect. Like it's still a real serious moral quandary that we find ourselves in. Let me just say this too: 50 billion pounds of chicken. How many billions of those pounds do you think end up in the trash? Because
A lot, I bet.
I'd be
Yeah.
willing to guess half. You know, and like I don't know. That gets me into a deeper thought about meat consumption and food consumption and the diversity of choice that we have in the United States,
Mhm.
especially, and that like, you know, ideologically, I would just love to see Americans being happier with less, and hopefully if oh what's his name, old Peter old demographic collapse guy.
Peter
um
Thiel.
Peter Thiel, if Peter Thiel is right and China's economy is about to collapse in the next like 20 years, we're going to have to deal with a lot less fun, cheap shit, you know? And like maybe that'll start a movement of people just being a little bit happier with having a few less options, but maybe better options.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think
I
is
don't
just a
know.
fascinating topic is food science in general. I don't know anything about it, like, foundationally, but chicken, just to take this example, it used to be a luxury item and it was very
Oh, sure.
expensive,
Mm-hmm.
just at high-end restaurants in Manhattan, that sort of a thing. There was,
Totally.
and that was not that long ago.
Right.
Also, blueberries used to not exist as a thing. It's a very modern. We had to use like a food science techniques to make it so that it had a shelf life. I mean,
Right.
most fruits and vegetables, we had to really like do some
Engineer.
delicate engineering to make it so
Yeah.
that they have a shelf life. There was this fascinating article in the Atlantic a week or two ago, and it was about the pawpaw. Are you familiar with the pawpaw fruit? So I knew nothing about this either. The pawpaw, Devin, is America's one and only like native fruit.
Wow,
And
went the way of the rest of the native things that were here, didn't it?
well, if you're at a fancy farmer's market in some certain places in the country, you can still get it. And I guess it's amazing and like tastes like like the best avocado you've ever had, but it's like creamy and like
Of
custard. And I guess it's
course.
great. This is the thing though.
Of
Food
course.
science has not been able to solve the problem of making it last longer than like 4.5 days after the moment you pluck it.
Sick.
It rots and dies. And there's this enzyme or something that triggers it to rot. Same thing that like a lot of fruits and vegetables have, but we've been able to slow it down. This
Yeah.
thing will not slow down, and so it rots, man. And I
Nice.
guess that you can get like pawpaw candy and pawpaw like
Okay.
yogurt in certain parts of the country, but there's like a real effort at certain like universities to make it so that the pawpaw fruit has
Shelf life.
has a shelf life. I don't know. Shit like that is kind of fascinating to me because we do, like it or not, none of us live on farms anymore. So if we're going to have, whether it's blueberries or chicken or anything, there was a lot of like ingenuity and creativity and brain power that made it the case that it's at our local grocery market, Whole Foods shelves. You just pluck it off and it's like, oh, $2.99, like
Right.
a lot of work went into that. And it's impressive. And I don't know, I admire it.
I do too. I think that there's like a bit of gosh, I don't even know what it is. It's obviously market forces, people jumping into the market to provide services where there's a gap in the market. But like we've kind of gotten this place where supply chains are bending over backwards to give people enough options, and like
Yeah.
we have too many
Too
options. You
many.
got to
Yep.
start peeling it back a little bit. Like there's no reason we should be getting stuff from really anywhere but the Americas. Like anywhere where we have to ship stuff across the ocean, that shit should be so expensive. Like
Shipping across oceans though is cheap. It's dirt
I
cheap. I think
know.
it's $700 for or something like that. It's super cheap for just one of those huge crates. It's basically nothing.
Right.
It comes down to a rounding error on the cost to ship something across the oceans.
Right.
And that's why, but we just abuse the fuck out of it because it
know.
is so effectively free,
It's brutal, man. And I would just love to see us in a place where we're not trying to innovate ways to continue to feed the gluttony of the modern consumer. And I'd like to see like a little bit more austerity in terms of like, hey, you don't need to have all of this stuff out of season. Maybe just wait until it comes back around. There's been a movement of like localizing food culture over the last like 20 years. Sacramento, where you're at, was really kind of at the heart of that movement, and then Berkeley, where I'm at, also kind of at the heart of that movement. We live really close to the Yolo Valley, which is the largest contiguous fertile agricultural region in the world. And
there's the Capay Valley there. I mean, it goes on and on.
Capay Valley, and it's like, and yet we still go to Whole Foods or to the grocery store, and we see peaches that are coming from Argentina, right? And somehow it's cheaper for us to get a peach from Argentina than it is from 20 miles away in the Yolo Valley. And I need this to change personally, as like, I don't know how you change it, because capitalism is such an advanced system, and it's so refined to where somebody can jump into the market, secure all of this funding to fill a gap in the market that maybe doesn't exist, or they're making it, like the meat, the lab grown meat. Nobody's asking for this. Nobody
People
wants
are.
this.
I mean, there's a huge movement to dismantle the factory farm industry,
which is good, but it's like, what are we going to do? Dismantle the factory farm industry and remantle a factory food production industry? It's
well,
like,
the
problem's already been solved. Like, agriculturalism is the most ancient human practice other than hunting. Like, we figured this out. We just need to do it right.
Well, let me ask you this. What would win you over to the lab grown meat market? Let me lay out my case. What would win me over?
Let me just first, a word from our sponsors, or our potential future sponsors, Red Bay Coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, Oakland-based Red Bay Coffee. Red Bay, if you're listening right now, sponsor our pod.
Is that the place you took me the other week?
Yeah.
It's good.
Good bean. Fair prices, friendly staff. Red Bay Coffee. Ding.
We indulged in a nice pastry. It was good. Yeah.
Here's what would win me over to lab grown meat, dude. Boy, I'd have to really dig this one out.
Can I give you my case first? Maybe I'll give you.
Yeah.
I've thought about this a little bit. What would actually win me over this to this? It's not going to be chicken, because I think chicken is already. I mean, chickens are dumb animals. I don't feel too bad about. I don't like the factory farming element of it, but it is what it is.
Agreed.
People eat a ton of chicken, and I mean, I don't know.
They're mean little dinosaurs.
It's cheap. And we've figured that out at some level. I'm worried about larger animals like pigs and cows. Pigs especially. I am not like a big like PETA guy or whatever. I'm not a huge animal rights person, but I would honestly sleep better at night if I knew that human beings weren't slaughtering things that are smarter than dogs and cats. We just have never formed a relationship with them, and so don't think of them like dogs and cats. But I never eat pork unless I.
Same.
I mean, will every now, maybe once a year, it'll just happen. So be it. But I mean, so in Asia right now, their chicken is pork. They eat like a ton of pork. And I think even in America, we eat way too much pork. Yeah. So if you can make it so that we move off of chicken, we move on to pork, it turns out that it is still healthy for the human body, tastes the same, And there basically are kind of no downsides to it in terms of the process. Maybe it takes a lot of energy, but like it's comparable to a farm. And then maybe it costs slightly more, but it's still affordable for your bacon at your local diner. Let's do away goal. Let's have the goal. Let's do away with pig farming. Let's just not have that anymore as a thing. And let's replace it with this. And I'm sold. I'm down. Even if there are some slight downsides, like economically, I'm down. I'm sold on that. Anyway, that's what would sell me on this whole project. What do you think?
I don't think, the more I think about it, I don't think anything can sell me on this. I think it's a stupid idea because I think it's just.
Do you see that like the romance of it, like the romanticness of the farming, or do you think like practically? You know what I mean?
No, practically, like 100% practically, because pigs are also an important part of like a farm ecosystem if properly cared for. Here's my deal with meat, dude. If you're a pig or a cow or a chicken in the wild, those don't exist anymore. But let's just say
pigs do. Pigs are all over.
Okay, that's actually true. Yeah, there's a lot of wild pigs, which is cool. Cool anecdote about wild pigs. Within like a year of like a normal farm pig, like if it escapes a farm, within a year it'll grow tusks and hair.
I feel like I've heard that. That's terrifying, man.
That's so cool.
It is cool, but it's terrifying.
That is terrifying. It is so cool. But look, if you're an animal in a wild environment, your most likely cause of death is going to be having your fucking guts ripped out by a predator while you're still alive.
Yep.
And like nobody's in there like trying to, like, none of the predators are killing the animal instantly. They're just ripping its guts out until it slowly dies. Now, in a farming,
that is a very strong argument that for some reason no one makes in comparison to factory farming. That is a very good point.
It blows my mind because the brutality of a wild animal's life, it's fear. It's all fear, man. It's like 90% fear, some fucking, some eating, and then the death is just horrific and brutal. Every time a human kills an animal, we kill it quick, dude. Even if that animal had a terrible life, it's over fast. And that's because we need that to happen in order for the meat to be viable. Now, you put yourself in a scenario where you, I don't know, like somehow disabuse these people of like their draconian sensibilities around farming, and get people to just kind of go back to like a 50s or 70s type of farming where it's like, yeah, they're all clustered together, but it's not like an evil, like a villain from a movie invented it. We go back to something that's at least somewhat mimicking a naturalist environment for these animals, and those animals are living the karmic equivalent of being like a shah in a palace, man. You got it. The food's coming to you. You're never really that afraid. You get to kind of fuck around and wander around. You get to maybe have some sex, and then when it's time for the last day to come, it's quick, and maybe there's some fear to it because you're around a bunch of other animals that are getting killed also. But like if you just take the sum total of that animal's experience and you kind of book match it to a wild animal, like a responsibly farmed animal is having an objectively incredible life. So that's just something that I'm like,
good point.
Yeah, and so it's like I don't see a scenario in which like growing meat, and then to kind of call back to something I said earlier, you'd have to do a longitudinal study where it's like 20 to 30 years to know whether or not this is cancer causing, frankly. I mean, it's like you think like the way that the body folds protein is one of the most mysterious parts of our physiology still. We still are struggling to create computer models that mimic the way the body folds proteins and creates tissues out of it. It's unbelievably complex. And if you're going to take
we're going to trust this over or tofu or aspartame or all the, we put so much shit in our bodies. It is the least of my worries is this stuff. We actually know what this is as opposed to a lot of chemicals that we put in our foods. We don't know.
Okay. Come on. Of course. Yeah. I'm on that page. Like I can't deal. I'll have a couple Skittles every once in a while, but boy, dude, I'm not putting any red 40 in my body or any of the stuff that you just mentioned. I don't know, man. I think that the conversation, for me, I think maybe one of my kind of put a pin in it uh, notes is we got to stop. We got to stop the conversation from focusing on innovating, and we got to focus on bringing it back to something that's more common sense not only in terms of farming, but in terms of the food that we're feeding people, man. Like, we're feeding people a lot of food that is poison, and that
Yeah.
isn't like
That was a big news around aspartame. I don't know if you saw it, but like, you're only supposed to have maximum 50 milligrams or whatever the number is of aspartame per day. And if you have a Diet Coke, it has like 500 milligrams, and people just guzzle those things. So yes, I mean, I'm on board that I think we're poisoning ourselves, and it's very unfortunate.
yeah, there's stuff that I think I get it. I get the instinct and I get the market. I get the market kind of drive to fill this gap, but I just don't. I don't know though. I mean, it's kind of apples and oranges. Like it's like, do I agree with lab grown meat? Like, conceptually, no. I'd rather us have a conversation
I
around
like it
eating.
conceptually, but that's another.
Like, I'd
That's a
rather us
longer
have a
conversation.
conversation around healthy eating and how to
Me too.
sustain localized agricultural systems and how to sustain small local businesses and local farmers and things like that. But we live in a capitalist globalist society, and I don't think that those two conversations are necessarily touching each other at the moment. So
Yep.
I don't know how useful me being like, well, what we really, it's like, well, what we're talking about, a capitalist endeavor where they're growing lab grown meat. And I guess at the end of the day, I just hope that it fails. I hope that people are grossed out by it, and that they're not able to overcome the gross out factor of it, and that it just, yeah, it flops.
I'm here for innovation. Wherever innovation lies, I'm here for it, and I think that there's a good chance it will flop just because of the cost. But I'm here for it. Absolutely, I'll try it as a gimmick. But yeah, we'll see. I want to jump to a couple more just quick topics.
The lightning round.
So, lightning round.
The
Yeah.
lightning
Uh,
round.
are you on Threads?
I did make a Threads, yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts? You think it's going to be the Twitter takedown?
I hope so. I like every passing week I like Elon Musk less and less and hope that he fails bitterly, which is crazy because I used to really love the guy, but maybe he was just a skilled propagandist. Um,
He
uh,
used to have projects until he took over Twitter. I'll say that. Like Tesla was cool, SpaceX was cool.
yeah,
He
and
did a
not
lot
too
of
much
cool
of his
things.
yeah, not too much of his personal emotional reality was revealed until he took over Twitter, and then you kind of see that he's a little bit of a man child, and like
Yeah.
maybe a little emotionally underdeveloped, which is fine for a normal person, but for somebody that's a titan of industry that controls a lot of conversations that are happening in the world, a little disconcerting. Threads was really funny. I got on it and I immediately got off of it because I don't know why it did this, but every single person that I followed, it became it became such a weird narcissist echo chamber. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like people were airing out thoughts that they wouldn't have aired on any other platform, and just in kind of like a gross, like cloying way, like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah. I
oh,
felt some of that.
I don't know I don't know why the tone of that platform felt like that. And it was like, really, I'm scrolling through stuff and I'm just seeing people kind of, maybe just voicing their inner monologue in a way that they didn't feel comfortable on other platforms. And it made me not like a lot of people that I follow kind of instantly. I'm going to wait it
I had
out.
to mute people immediately. I had to start muting some folks, but
Yeah. And I'm gonna wait it out. I mean, as a person
mm,
who is, I think, hopefully a fully arrived modern person in my esteem, like my kind of uh, the way that I use social media. Social media is not a tool for personal expression. It is a capitalist and marketing tool. You're using it as a tool for personal expression. You're playing yourself because you're
I
sell you're
agree.
you're
Man, good
pimp
point.
you're pimping your own ass out, and you're pimping your own IP
Mhm.
for somebody else to use for free and to make money off of you. If you use it as a
Yep.
marketing tool, you're actually kind of, on the leading edge of I think what social media should be for as we move into the future. I'll wait on Threads. I'll see what Twitter is the platform where you get to interact with famous people and people that are way outside of your sphere of influence. Instagram is the photo and video app. TikTok, blah blah. They all have their different kind of they all have their different kind of ecosystem in the digital, or their own habitat in the digital ecosystem. Threads, we'll see where it finds its way to situate itself, and if it bookends with my ability to do marketing or musical work somehow, then I'll use it. Then I'll exploit it as a useful tool. That remains to be seen at the moment.
I like how you said that. Well, a couple of my thoughts here.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway talk about this quite a bit on their podcast, Pivot.
Okay.
Typically, I like Scott Galloway's takes on everything, but every now and then, because he's rich and semi-famous, he's so out of touch, and it's kind of amazing. I thought that his takes on Threads have been out of touch, and like this is the first thing he said about it. His just observation about the platform was that, you know, when I logged on. You know, I've got like, I'll make these numbers up, but I have 700,000 followers on Twitter. And right when I logged onto Threads, I immediately had 150,000 people, and they were liking and engaging. I would post something, I would get 500 likes, and that's just amazing. Everyone was positive. Okay, that's cool, dude. But like, here's the normie take. I have 700 followers on Twitter, and I've got like, I don't even know, maybe 200 on Instagram, and I don't cultivate that audience at all. And I don't really care about it because I kind of hate Instagram. So I logged on to Threads to see if it could be a Twitter competitor. I got 12 followers, dude, and 0 engagement. Still, I've posted like 5 or 6 times, not a lot, but I posted shit that if I had posted those same things on Twitter, they would have gotten some engagement. Threads, it's going out into the darkness, man. It's no one's seeing that shit. And because they're right now, they just haven't rolled out many features. They're going to, and Threads might actually win because of this. But right now, you can't really search for people, or you can't search for topics or anything. And this is what I actually do love about Twitter, is that it is the only platform I've ever experienced where you can just connect with other random people. And I mean, we were just talking about this Saturday, I'm going to see Oppenheimer. Well, I'm going with my buddy. Shout out to Dane Fitzgerald, who I met on Twitter. You know,
Nice.
And we've been on each other's podcasts, and we've met up in real life multiple times. Twitter friend, you know what I mean? And I'm waiting to see my first Threads friend. But right now, the way the platform is looking with its lack of features and all that, I don't know. It's absolutely not as fun as Twitter, and I'm rooting for it because I think that Twitter is toxic and kind of sucks, and it is just. Why are we still using? Platforms need to evolve and need to move, and I don't know. It just seems stale for what it is. Last topic, and we'll hit this one quickly.
All right.
Have you heard of Elon Musk's new venture?
No.
Okay, this one just dropped, so I wasn't sure if you'd heard about this one. Maybe I can rant about it a little bit.
This is a world premiere.
Let me drop the news to you, and then I want to get your first impression.
Let me prepare myself. Yes.
All right. Elon Musk last week launched XAI with the purpose of solving humanity's problems. What do you think?
Writ large?
Yeah. Solving all of humanity's problems. That's the goal of the platform company.
Damn, dude, I'm still so torn whether this guy is like legitimately a skinwalker from like a different star system, or just like a shitty little spoiled man child, dude. I can't figure it out, you know, because like he does, like, dude, Solar City, you know what I'm saying, like has put more solar panels on roofs than anybody ever. Tesla has put more people in electric cars than anybody ever. SpaceX has put more crap in space, which I don't know how to fucking feel about that, but it's
Starlink is good. Starlink has done a lot of amazing things. Yeah.
Starlink is good. Everything he's done, you know, the tunnels, the Boring Company, I kind of love it. Yeah, I still kind of love it, you know, like the idea, just the balls, you know. The flamethrower, I mean, like, I can't. It's hard for me to dig out an idea of his that I genuinely don't like. So
Right.
I really don't like the guy anymore. But that's kind of. I mean, I feel like so many of humanity's problems are. But here's the thing, though. I feel like so many of humanity's problems are not. They're not conceptual. They're logistical. And so it's like maybe you could figure out a way to solve these problems, and I guess AI would be like the first way to. I like it. I think it's a great idea. Fuck it.
Right. Hey, that's a good futuristic. I like it. Well, I mean, it was interesting because I listened to his. They did a thing on Twitter. God, I'm blanking on what it's called, but where you talk on Twitter and people show up and they talk. It's like a live podcast feature.
Yeah.
Which I do really like. But Elon Musk did a 3-hour one when he launched this. I listened to some of it. Interestingly, the whole conversation kind of devolved around free speech on platforms and censorship. Some of these kind of just tired topics. And, also a little bit of kind of interesting talk about
freedom.
Well, it's just that I don't know. I don't take Elon Musk seriously on that topic specifically, just because he's such a hypocrite. So he is the last person I want to hear talking about censorship and even regulation. I think he's a hypocrite on regulation of technology.
Yep.
I don't know. So everything about it just was kind of underwhelming. It seems like a lot of the people at the company that were also speaking, they do seem like they're well-intentioned people. Clearly, I'm sure they're very intelligent. I don't know, but I'm kind of like for the idea too, just having an artificial intelligence platform that, I mean, here's kind of the pitch. It doesn't just regurgitate shit like ChatGPT does. It will, on its own, it will generate new truths or new knowledge. And so, for example, right now, ChatGPT, if you ask it a question, it will just spit out an answer that people have written about, and it may not be true. So back in the day, Elon Musk gave this example. If there was a ChatGPT when we thought that the sun revolves around the Earth, ChatGPT would have said the sun revolves around the Earth. And Galileo would have been fake news based on, back then. And we have many equivalencies of this today. Lab leak or whatever, the hot button case might be. And I would like to see AI advance to the point where it doesn't just regurgitate what the 50+1 people are saying, but actually does some sort of analysis or whatever AI can do wherever it's going, and says, so 80% of people are fucking wrong, and here's why. I think that would be tight. I think that would be a great day for humanity to have built something that is a truth creator, not just a regurgitator of our falsehoods.
I just my mind keeps gravitating back to the idea of like the team that will have to be built around deciding what the first set of like humanity's problems get fed into that, and just watching like both sides of the political spectrum tear it to shreds. Like, really homelessness is the biggest problem in our nation? What about the white man and his diminishing role in society? You know what I mean? And like liberals, like supply chain logistics, what about the rights of people with alternative identities? You know what I mean? Like, just like I would love to watch like the absolute total war that would ensue from just deciding what are our problems. I like that.
Or what happens when it spits out something that conflicts with Elon's worldview? Say he's dead set on some political position.
Pretty please, dude.
And his machine proves him wrong. That would be a good day, and I would like to see his reaction when that happens.
Me too.
Hey, well, till next time. Thanks, Devin.